This is CNN Breaking News.
Breaking news, questions swirling tonight about whether Donald Trump's children will be granted access to the nation's top secrets. This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. At the same time, sources telling CNN about severe infighting within Trump's transition team, one source calling it a knife fight. The man Trump's replacing saying he's ready to hand over the keys to the White House.
My team stands ready to accelerate in the next steps that are required to ensure a smooth transition.
President Barack Obama also calling on Americans to give Trump a chance.
I think it's important for us to let him make his decisions. And I think the American people will judge over the course of the next couple of years whether they like what they see.
Mr. Obama offering some sober advice to the president-elect.
There are going to be certain elements of his temperament that will not serve him well unless he recognizes them and corrects them.
But the president refusing to comment on Donald Trump's decision to appoint Steve Bannon, the controversial former head of Breitbart News, as his chief strategist and senior counsel. There's a lot to get to tonight. I want to begin with CNN's chief national security correspondent, and that's Mr. Jim Sciutto. Jim, good evening to you. There is word tonight that Donald Trump is trying to get top secret security clearance for his three oldest children and son-in-law. What can you tell us about that?
So, Don, it appears this decision is not fully baked right now. One source telling my colleague Jim Acosta that this is something that the president-elect is seeking for Ivanka Trump, Eric Trump, and Donald Trump Jr., as well as his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Another official telling my colleague Sarah Murray that this is not something he has requested yet. It appears to be something that he is considering requesting, and keep in mind, this sounds very plausible. His children, Ivanka in particular, Jared Kushner, her husband, his son-in-law, have been very close advisors. Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump as well. And as they are there, if they're not formal advisors, will they be involved in conversations where perhaps classified material would come up? That's possible. This appears to be something that the president-elect wants to consider and see if it's possible, but has not made a decision yet as to whether he's going to pursue this.
Okay. There's also been some talk of palace intrigue and infighting among transition officials. What's that about? Let
me tell you, Don, I've talked to officials inside the transition who have said that there are really sharp divisions right now. Knife fight is an expression I've heard, as well as more colorful language I'm not going to share on the air right now. And the dividing lines seem to be along these lines. One, on the one side, more establishment GOP people. Keep in mind, you have Reince Priebus, who's now the choice for chief of staff, against less establishment, more alternative figures, non-conventional. You have Steve Bannon as a senior advisor to the president, conflicting over some key appointments. For instance, on Secretary of State, my understanding is that mainstream conservatives, they're considering John Bolton as the Secretary of State nominee, but you have others, Trump loyalists, who are considering Rudy Giuliani, who's been a very, for quite some time, a close supporter, unwavering supporter of Donald Trump on those kinds of decisions. But in addition to that, Don, I'm told that because you have this quite a confusing diffusion of responsibility. You have Steve Bannon as a senior advisor. You have Reince Priebus as the chief of staff. You have Jared Kushner, the son-in-law, all playing something like a chief of staff role. A lot of chiefs, not many Indians. That's causing confusion. Someone tied to the transition told me that it's buffoonery as this decision-making process is going forward. As you and I know, at this stage of any transition, there is always disagreement. There are going to be battles. There are going to be people who want these jobs. So some of that is natural. But in this case, it seems to be that the divisions are particularly sharp.
Jim Sciutto, appreciate that. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
I want to bring in now Ari Fleischer.